Hello, Year 8. Given the current situation, we have moved on to home learning, and given that this is my first video for science, if I give you a quick introduction, this will help you prepare for any forthcoming lessons that are introduced and put onto our website. Anyway, these clips will be found on our Queensbury School website under home learning. Now, if you go through these every fortnight, I'll be uploading perhaps 1 or 2 videos, and there'll be short activities or questions to have a go at, and the maximum length of any of those videos will be 15 minutes, no longer. So, if I get started from where we left off previously, in our very last lesson, whilst you guys were still here in school, we looked at solubility, and more specifically, we learnt about the key terms soluble, solution, solute, solvent. Now, moving on from there, this lesson, we are moving on to filtration. So, our objectives for this lesson are, can you tell me the equipment required for carrying out filtration? The second objective, explain how filtration works. And the final objective, describe how to filter a mixture. Now, to begin with, we will go straight into what these images here show. So all these images here, here, and here are showing you filtration. So this is filtration in a school lab. This is filtration of some coffee substance. And this is filtration in the home using a sieve. Now, some of you might have sieves at home. You might use it for sieving flour. A strainer, for example, is also a sieve. And the whole purpose of filtering is it will let some substances pass through, and it will hold or prevent other substances from passing through. So this is filtering. Now, if we move on, state 2 types of mixtures that can be separated by filtration. I'd like you to have a quick go at that activity. So right this minute, pause the video, have a go at that question, and then play the video again, and let's move on to the lesson. Okay, how does filtration work? The way filtration works is when we have 2 or more substances where one substance does not dissolve in another. So for example, if you remember the word solute, the solid, solvent, the liquid. If I get a solid, solute, I put it into the solvent, which is the liquid, for example, sand, which is a solute, in water, which is the solvent, then the sand does not dissolve in the water. And because it does not dissolve, when we carry out this experiment, which if you remember we have already done in the lab, the sand gets trapped within the filter paper. So here's the filter paper, and the liquid, water, which is a solvent, passes through. So I've managed to separate that mixture of sand and water by carrying out filtration. However, I want you to think about, can we separate salt from water? So if I had salt, I dissolve the salt in water, could I use filtration to separate that mixture? Okay, let's have a look at the equipment needed. So it's important that you can remember the equipment needed to carry out a filtration experiment. So starting from the top, we'll work our way down towards the bottom. So the filtration paper, if you remember that circular disc which we had to fold to make a cone, that is called the filter paper. The filter paper sits inside of this triangular shaped funnel. So that is called a filter funnel. Now sometimes we might use a clamp, or we may not, because the filter will sit directly into the conical flask. So the conical flask is this apparatus here, and it's made from glass. So just to recap, filter paper, filter funnel. conical flask, and if you wish, you can mention the clamp. The substance that gets trapped in the filter paper, we call that the residue, and the substance that goes through the filter paper is what we call the filtrate. In this case, the sand is a residue, it's trapped in the filter paper, and the substance that has passed through, the water, we call the filtrate. Now, why is filtration useful? In the shops you might notice that we can get instant coffee, which you just put into your water and it dissolves. Or you can buy coffee beans which are ground up and it leaves bits. So how do you make coffee using that? We have to filter it. And in science you might have seen me pull out our cafetiere, and that is an apparatus that we use to make coffee, but filtering out the tiny ground bits of coffee. In cars they have oil filters to trap bits of metal and dirt in the filter and not circulate around the engine. So there's clean oil that circulates around the engine without any bits in it. So the oil filter traps the bits, trapping solid bits of dirt. In some countries they may use filter, like here, to clean the water. So when they get the water, they will pass it through again some filter, and it will trap any solid bits in the water, so that at the bottom we've only got water without any tiny bits in it. So there's many real life examples of that. Now, if I go to separating mixtures, on here you will see some activities and I will give you some questions in a bit. So given what we've gone through, what I'd like you to do is see if you can pause the video and then have a go at sketching this diagram and then labeling the apparatus. Once you've done that, I will show you the answers and you can assess yourselves against the answers you originally provided. So if you pause the video now, okay, now the answers. Check yourself against the parts. So here we have the funnel, here we have the filter paper, this is the residue, this apparatus is your conical flask, and right at the bottom we have our filtrate. Now the final part of today's lesson, I would like you to pause the video intermittently at each stage. So here's question 1. Using these words, have a second attempt at labeling the apparatus. Once you've done that, you can go back to the learning material and check against it. Here's the second question I'd like you to have a go at. So again, if you pause the video, you can zoom into this and have a go at question 2. And for those who want to really challenge themselves, I'd like you to have a go at question 3. It's worth 6 marks, so it is at a higher level. So, just to recap, this lesson we are looking at filtration. Our key part of today's lesson is recalling the apparatus needed, including some of these key terms: residue, filtrate. If possible, I want you to explain how filtration works. So the tinier particles will get through the filter paper. The bigger particles will be trapped at the top of the filter paper. The substance that is trapped we call the residue. The substance that is able to pass through is called the filtrate. Thank you, and keep a lookout for my second lesson.